sheet here. Let's go find that point at approximately 59. That's going to be our the offset we want to use. So right here, this is going to be the value we're going to populate in our table. We're going to take this value, we're going to copy this from our data sheet, and we're going to go right here into 59.2, and we're going to paste it. So now what I'm going to do is just paste that in my first column and my last column, and we're just going to do a horizontal interpolation and just completely change this table. We're going to be horizontally interpolating between this, and it'll set all the values the same in all of the columns. So this is, again, for a return style fuel system. Returnless, you would copy the data from the data sheet as you found it. You wouldn't go and alter this, but I have to go do this for this particular example. All right, so that'll be fine. Going down here a little bit further, the injection timing, we're going to be taking a look at this at the very end of the calibration process. Probably the last video. I'm going to go and work with our Excel data sheet and being able to go and punch some values in there. We'll do a little bit of experimentation and just see the cause and effect as we're changing some things. There's going to be a desoot mode. We're going to go here and disable that. That can create some issues. Cranking fuel, we're not going to change. IVT terms, we're not going to change. We'll leave that alone. Oxygen sensors here, we're going to leave everything in here the way it's going to be. We're going to be working with our O2 information. Now we're going to go and check our O2 switching voltages when we get the engine up and running in the next video. When we start to do the MAF calibration process, we need to verify when our wideband signal's coming in that when we're taking a look at what the O2 switching is going to be switching at, that the wideband air fuel is going to match what the narrow bands are switching at. So we're going to take a look at that process. I'm not going to change anything in here for right now. We can just run it as is. Open loop and base into the open loop table. We want to make sure at our higher coolant temperatures here, so we're seeing, let's say, 90 to 111, at our higher intake valve temperatures, so something like 100 and hotter, that our values here are approximately 1.0. 1.0 is going to be stoichiometric. If we find that the value is going to be a higher value, that's going to be commanding a richer commanded air fuel in open loop. So open loop is going to be when we're not in power enrichment, but we're not in closed loop with the oxygen sensor feedback. So when we fire off the engine, sometimes we're going to be in open loop until we transition into closed loop. There's going to be situations where we're going to be transitioning out of closed loop, but not in power enrichment, and this is going to be what it sources for the fuel value. So I like to set these all at 1.0. Just make sure these are all roughly 1.0 here. Looks like they're all pretty much 1.0. Some calibration strategies are different, so that's 1.0, and there we go. So those are all 1.0. We do have our IVT gas gains. We can find that this is also going to be a modifier to the open loop air fuel versus intake valve temperature. That's a inferred or calculated parameter that we're going to be taking a look at in our PID channels for the VCM scanner versus our manifold pressure. So one thing I do find that can be a problem on some cars, especially on a cam car, we're going to be pulling much lower vacuum. Lower vacuum meaning that we're going to be closer here to 100 kPa or atmospheric pressure, because the cam is going to be pretty large, is going to be bleeding off the cylinder pressure, and we're going to be losing a lot of that torque, and we'll find as a result of all that, it's going to be pulling less vacuum. So in that situation, we're going to be idling instead of here at a value of 1.0 that won't offset our open loop air fuel as we're warming up the engine. We might be here. And in the higher values, that's going to be a higher, richer target air fuel value or commanded air fuel value. That can make a huge difference in the way that we run. So normally on a stock engine, we would pull between 30 and 40 kPa. So we would have our offset here being approximately 1.0. But on a cammed engine like this, we might be pulling 55, 65, 70. We're going to be operating down here. What I'm going to do just to get this out of the way here, I'm just going to grab all of these values from approximately 20 to 75 here, and I'm going to set them to 1.0. Just so we don't have a massively rich commanded air fuel for firing off the engine that can create some definite issues. I'm going to do the same thing here as well. Just do equals, just so we can avoid any issues, and then I'll just do some blending here. So if we have too much or too high of a commanded air fuel when we fire off the engine, that can create some instability. Now, likewise, I've zeroed this out and I've set it all to 1.0, which should be 14.7 stoichiometric. We may need to richen up the mixture when the engine is warming up. This will act as our warm-up enrichment. It'll change our target air fuel, which will then go in and increase the injector pulse, which will allow us to run richer. So we're going to see how the engine fires off and runs when we get to that point, but I'll set this all to 1.0 here so we can kind of simplify things. Let's close that out. The rest of our parameters here, we should be fine. We don't have to change anything. Miscellaneous here, we don't have to change anything. Power enrichment, we need to change. Under the throttle here, we're going to find that we have our enable TPS is going to be when we enter the power enrichment mode to command a richer air fuel. At something like 4,500 or even 4,000, I'm going to set this at really low at something like 5% throttle. But at 0 to maybe 1,500, I don't want to go and transition into power enrichment at 12 or 15% throttle. It's going to be give me really poor economy for fuel economy. I'm going to set this maybe a little bit higher to something like 25 or 30% throttle.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.